Yes, I know.
Crap.
Thank you.
I was thinking about doing that, and then I threw them all out. So I'm like, shit, I'll get arrested doing some stupid stuff.
Oh, solid stuff.
Both should be over by that. So.
No, she gave us a full
Laurel's back there smiling because
like
these are her
3
last
or
budgets.
4 that one like a week ago that we had to see all. I don't think so. No, because I think the email said we will approve that at a later date. She's just giving it to us to look at.
I started off the same
Are you ready?
show up and see
So I only know.
your support. Do that all the time.
So this should be
Good evening.
This will be from 7 to
okay.
Welcome to the scheduled public discussion hearing on the budget for Monday, April 21st, 2014. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mayor Hammond.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are going to start with a presentation first from our Superintendent of Schools, Mike Emmett, and then our Town Manager will also present the budget, and then we'll have public comment. How are you, Mike?
Good evening, everyone.
Mayor, the council is here except for Councilor Kotkin.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening again, everyone. This evening, I'll be giving a very brief presentation. This will actually be my third presentation, presented first to the board, as well as then to town council on the 17th of March. The process
turn the lights down a bit.
The process with regard to how we develop our budget is actually one that begins long before now. We actually started in the late fall with regard to our projections, and then went through a series of budget workshops held both on Tuesdays as well as Saturday mornings over at the Stillman Building. We went line by line with regard to this budget. Those of you that know that have the binders, about 650 pages. Line by line, object by object, to determine exactly what it was that we needed. Our proposed budget increase for the upcoming school year is a 3.75% increase, or an increase of $1.99 million. Our proposed initiatives, and I said this when I presented to council, I talk about these as being initiatives. In reality, these are just replenishing positions we've lost in the past. We're looking for a 1.0 Director of Security and Residency. As you know, school safety continues to be an issue. We just recently heard on the news of another multiple stabbing at a high school in the Pittsburgh area. We're looking for a 1.0 instructional supervisor for mathematics. This again would be a replacement for a position that we previously had. And we're also looking to replenish the academic leader stipends both at Weathersfield High School and Silas Deane Middle School. As you've probably heard in the news, school districts across the state and actually across the country are now enjoying the implementation of Common Core state standards. Also dealing with the myriad of mandates that we're required to meet. A great example of that certainly would be the implementation of lifeguards at the pool. That was a cost that was not budgeted for this budget year, but the mandate came forward from the legislature and we had to make do. And again, the piece with the academic leader stipends, both at Weathersfield High School and Silas Deane Middle School, these were really important functions at both schools. And with the implementation of Common Core state standards and all of the curriculum that we have written over the past 2 years, these positions we feel be very important in terms of moving forward. In the previous presentation to the town council, I listed a whole myriad of things that didn't make the budget. When we first began our work in late January, early February, we were in the increase area of about 4.79%. Areas that we have scaled back on already include legal services, we've scaled back on instructional supplies, we've scaled back on tuition. We're also looking at reducing a number of paraprofessionals within the district. And we look at that as an ability to save costs while at the same time ensuring that our students do not receive any less in the way of services. Very proud of the services that we provide our students here in Weathersfield. As you'll see here toward the end of the brief presentation, certainly a quality school district reflects well on this town. What does the increase include? We have budget drivers here that include negotiated agreements with our unions, increases in fixed costs. I had mentioned before increases in state and federal mandates, increases in the town calculated cost of the OPEB trust and pension. Last year, for example, the district provided $78,000 toward the OPEB trust, and this year we're projected to be providing $156,000. And then, of course, we certainly look at improvements in our budget initiatives. And then again, with our budget outcomes, we remain committed to providing high-quality education for all of our students, from our preschool 3-year-olds right up to our 21-year-old students receiving special ed services at the Weathersfield Transition Academy. We remain focused on continuous improvement while adhering to state and federal mandates that impact our budget. Those mandates continue to keep on coming, regardless of what relief we've asked for, and that's something that we cannot get out from under. We recognize that families make residency decisions based upon the quality and reputation of the school system, and we know full well that the school district quality impacts property values. So again, for the next budget year, we're requesting an increase of 3.75% to adequately and effectively fund our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council and residents of the town, citizens of the town. I'm here to present the overall budget. Do you have the microphone? Sure. Use that. I need to move around a little bit. The town budget that I'm presenting tonight includes the Board of Ed budget, which you just heard about. The town budget includes town spending, of course, which we would consider non-educational. The road levy, which is for the maintenance and reconstruction of roads, and the Board of Education expenses. As you can see, education, as Mr. Emmett said, is up 3.7. We left one decimal point, not two, but 3.7. The town's 4.3, and for a total of 3.9% increase in spending for the proposed next year's budget. Now, there's some adjustments that need to be made here. We got some information from our health insurance advisor, so that number can come down somewhat, but not a lot. But we'll be making adjustments between now and adoption for health insurance. As you can see, the proposed mill levy is $37.05, up from $33.46 from the current year. One of the things that's impacting the mill levy is the grand list. We went through reappraisal this year. The value of the grand list dropped 5.06%. So the value of a single-family home in Weathersfield was $187,000 for the current year budget. Next year, it's going to be, or currently it's $168,800. So that impacts how the mill levy's a little calculated. Now, about a third of the homeowners in town won't see any difference in their taxes due to the change in their value or the stability of their value on their home. About 2/3 will see increases of different scale depending on what happened to their value. If they made improvements, if they own multifamily properties, so forth and so on. But about a third will see their taxes stay about the same. Commercial property, about 17% of the commercial properties in town will see their property taxes stay about the same. The rest will see different degrees of increases depending upon if they made improvements, if the value went up, so forth and so on. And as you can see, the spending increases, the top graph over the past 10 years. One of the measures we use locally in terms of fiscal health in our rating agencies look at is the amount of unbudgeted fund balance, meaning what's our rainy day fund, how much reserves can we call on in case we need additional funds. The town has a policy of trying to have at least 8 to 10%, 7 to 10% in unreserved fund balance. Based upon the proposed budget at the end of fiscal 2015, which is next June, we will have 9.8% in fund balance. Now, that's important because over the next year, we'll be going out to the bond markets to sell general obligation bonds to fund the high school project. And the healthier financial picture you can paint for the rating agencies and for the bond buyers, the lower the overall interest rate is on a 20-year bond. The capital fund, if you look at it, it's online. The capital fund includes an appropriation of $8.9 million. That $8.9 million represents the additional grant funds we expect to receive from the state of Connecticut to complete the high school project. So that shows up as a revenue and expense out of the capital fund. Also, related to the high school project, we're increasing next year's budget, $498,000, for debt service for the high school project. As you can see the chart, the solid blue line is the current debt service the town has, or all their existing debt. And you can see it's going down. As we talked about during the referendum process, the town's debt service overall is going down. And we anticipated an increase in debt service relative to the high school project. And then again, after so many years, that will go back down as well. The $498,000 is an effort to smooth the line rather than having severe peaks in debt service over the years. So next year we'll add some money, the year after we'll have some money, and that way we're not seeing drastic escalations in any one year. The amount of the debt service or the mill levy impact for the high school project will be the same when we get to 2019, which is the peak, but we won't see dramatic increases in any one fiscal year. Some highlights in the budget. As Mr. Emmett talked about, school security is a high priority. There's $150,000 in the capital fund for school security improvements, doors and cameras. We also have some additional funds in the police department budget to bring on an SRO or a juvenile detective for half year. The MDC sewer charge, which the member towns are assessed for sewer service, is increasing $70,000. As again, Mr. Emmett said, OPEB, or other post-employment benefits, which is basically retiree health. The town is committed to $122,000 a year. Next year, we're doubling that to $244,000, and the following year after that, that'll go up another $122,000, and so on. We're seeing a slight increase in our liability, auto, and property insurance. The town carries that insurance for both sides, Board of Ed and town. We carry the property insurance for the entire town. As we talked about before, there's a slight decrease in health insurance due to our stop-loss premium. The town is self-insured, so we have a stop-loss policy. Everything after $125,000, an insurance company picks up those costs. We've not reflected the full deduct of the $244,000 in what you're seeing tonight. That will be reflected for the council prior to adoption. We're seeing a 15% workers' compensation insurance increase. Our pension contributions are increasing. Our salaries are going up per union contract. Non-union and part-time, 2.5%. And for a lot of our rec programs that utilize college and high school help, and even some of the library programs, we've got to make the adjustments for the minimum wage increases. Our delivery charge for electricity on our municipal buildings is going up $67,000. And on a revenue side, and I've got a slide on this, our municipal aid from the state is about the same as we got for the current year. Non-property tax revenues, these are things like building permit fees, dog licenses, fines, forfeitures, interest on investments, or what we would call disinterest on our investments, as you all looked at your bank accounts and your other, cash basis type investments. Very little movement there. You can see the actual for 2013 on the left. What we're projecting today, that number's going to be a little higher. Those projections were done at the end of March. April's showing a slight increase in a couple of those, so that'll be a little higher on the projected than what we're anticipating. And then next year is about the same as last year's actual. Now, if you look at the fund balance, we have budgeted in the 12-13, we budgeted $350,000 next year. Current year, we have 300, but due to the revenues in the other line items, we didn't need to use it, so that just lapses back in the fund balance. And we anticipate for the current year that to be the same thing. So, tax revenues, you can see the projections there. Current year, next year. We've been very successful on collecting prior year property taxes. We have a very compassionate yet dedicated tax collector who is very, likes to see people pay, but works with them when she needs to. It's a very good process. So you can see our tax revenues in the different categories there. Motor vehicles, people continue to buy new cars, which is good. Good for the economy, good for the tax base. Our capital budget, drainage repairs, we've got $90,000. We're going to do some drainage work on Marmor Court, Cranston Street, and our federal required stormwater Phase 2 program. $50,000 for the facade loan program. If you've looked up and down the Silas-Dean Highway, we've invested in some of the properties along there to upgrade their aesthetics, and those are loans. When the property changes hands, that money's paid back, and we reuse it for additional improvements. Fire safety, Station 2, new windows and lights. Again, at Station 2, replace the bay doors, and at Station 3, boiler and heat upgrades. Pavement maintenance, this is outside the $1.2 million pavement fund, street sign replacement, and then at Wells, we'll be widening Folly Brook for a turning lane for the high school project. Park and Rec, we've got funds in there for the Cove Dock matching project. We're building a new set of docks at Cove Park. We received a almost $500,000 federal grant, which we need to match, so those matching funds are in the capital budget. And we're going to do some work at Willard Pool. Again, we talked about the school security, sidewalk repairs, $25,000, and then at various town buildings, some HVAC work. We've got a grant of $380,000 from FEMA to replace emerging generators. We've got to match that, so that money's in there. We're putting aside some money to rebuild a salt shed. We're doing some backup power systems at the police department for the radio system and their communication system, and some roof work and a new ADA ramp at Standish House. And again, as we've spoken about, the $8.9 million from the grant for the high school project. And then we have another fund where we purchase non-vehicular equipment, vehicular equipment, or non-capital items. Police vehicles, we buy 4 a year. It's on a routine replacement schedule. A new plow truck for physical services and two replacement pickups for physical services. The fire department, new SCBA bottles, pagers, and a respirator fit tester. Help the firefighters fit their masks for their SCBA bottles. An aerator for the baseball fields. For those of you in the Little League program, aeration of the fields helps keep those playable. So we're getting an aerator that can work those fields and keep them in better shape. Truck lift for physical services, portable generator that we'll use townwide. Mowers, a couple mowers. Plow for the payloader for heavy storms. And then we have some other expenses, emergency management supplies. We put money aside each year. So in the 5th year, we have funds available for the revaluation project that we have to do every 5 years. We bought some tax collector software some years ago, and we're making payments towards that. Going to upgrade some town hall computer controllers, new computers at PD, and then this fund also covers the equipment leases that we have in our budget. That's the proposed budget in a nutshell. It's the full book. It's a 220-page teal book. It's available online or at the town manager's office, and the Weathersfield Public Library has a copy as well. So take advantage and ask questions, and if you'd like a full copy of the 200-page document, let me know, and we've got a few that we can hand out. So thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Jeff, we had a sign-up sheet.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Great. The remainder of our evening is devoted to public comment on any aspect of the budget for the public hearing. During the normal public hearing of this, speakers are allowed up to 10 minutes to speak on the budget, and at the completion of the first round, if anybody wishes to come back, they are also offered another opportunity. So we're going to go off the sign-up sheet, and if anybody wants to sign up that is not on the sheet, please come up while one of the speakers is on, and we'll be glad to entertain your time. So first is Nicole Ferraris. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So I'm here to kick off the predictable. The parents come out to support the education budget, and non-parents come out to talk about reducing the taxes, right? And I'm not from New England, I'm from Pennsylvania, and this is a new process for me. I've been in Weathersfield 7 years, and I find it just silly, to be honest. I mean, we should all be on the same page as far as making the town better, and part of that is improving education. In the 7 years I've been in Weathersfield, I've watched the public school budget get cut and cut and cut, and services cut and cut and cut, to the point where we pulled my older daughter out of the public school. She goes to Corpus Christi now. I have a second grader still in Hanmer, and I would like to see him stay in the public schools. We moved to Weathersfield. We chose Weathersfield. We lived in Canton. We chose Weathersfield because we liked the small neighborhood elementary school model. Canton, they bus everybody into one elementary school and so forth. We like the neighborhood schools. We moved here for the schools. I now do not recommend people to move to Weathersfield, and I hear families at Corpus Christi, well, don't go to Weathersfield. Oh, they don't value education. And for every parent you see here, there are 20 parents who had soccer or who had baseball or who couldn't be here tonight, but they do support education. And for me specifically, the math curriculum supervisor, I don't know how we don't have one. That's absolutely insane that there's nobody in charge of the math curriculum. And it seems like a silly kind of obscure, position, but I can't tell you how many parents hate the math curriculum. Right? Lattice multiplication, anyone? Right? It's a nightmare. And it does not, everyday math does not correspond well with Common Core. So to put our teachers out there and ask them to meet these new standards without the tools that a math curriculum supervisor can give them is absolutely crazy. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard. That this is that we've been operating without it so far. Because right now we've decided to not purchase a new curriculum that matches Common Core standards, because curriculum is very expensive, and we're not sure where that's going. And that makes sense. That's smart. But you can't ask our teachers to not have a curriculum to work off of and to not have anyone in charge of the math curriculum. We have a reading curriculum supervisor, but we don't have a math curriculum supervisor, when the majority of jobs for the 21st century are going to be math and science based. That is so short-sighted, and just to me reflects, if this position gets cut, really reflects to me where the values are as far as education goes in this town. So I support the education budget, but particularly the math curriculum supervisor is absolutely essential. It's absolutely essential. I work in the New Haven Public Schools as outreach coordinator for a grant down there. I'm a statistician. I'm a math person myself. I see what the curriculum people do in other school districts. The fact that we don't have one, if we go forward for the next school year trying to implement Common Core without someone in charge of the math curriculum is just ridiculous. So please consider fully funding that. Thank you.
Nicole, could you just read your address? Just cite your address
Oh,
publicly.
25 Belmont Street.
What was the name again? Would you mention the name also?
Yeah, it's Ferrari, Nicole Ferrari.
Ferrari.
Yeah.
Thank you. Robert Woodward?
Thank you. My name is Bob Woodward. I live at 456 Middletown Avenue in Weathersfield. For the first time in 4 years of retirement, before the first of the year, I received notification that my pension was going up, 3%. It's not a big pension, but it was something. And Social Security was going up a little. We also received notification that our long-term health care insurance was going up 15% this year and probably 8% this year. 15% more than exceeded the increase in my pension and Social Security. So knowing that taxes would be coming up in a budget, I was very interested and kept an eye on the paper to see what would happen, because any increase for taxes was going to be paid out of a non-existent increase in our pension and Social Security. I looked at the paper. I also read what was here tonight. Our house value dropped 3.4% on a home that has had no improvements over the last period since the last revaluation. At over 10% mill rate increase, our taxes went up 7%. That's more than we are going to pay, period. End of discussion on that point. And I know people in this town in the same position, people who are working, people with children, people with college-age students, whom a 7% tax increase or whatever it is on their properties will impact negatively. I realize there are good reasons to increase the budget. I realize that if we went with a decrease on everything, we'd decrease the budget. A 1.2% mill rate increase would take it back to last year. Another 0.8% would take it to a 2% increase, which from my point of view, at least would be affordable. I don't know if it would do what the town wanted, but at least it would be affordable. I hope you will take both sides of this into consideration. We've got an economic situation, if you read the paper, if you do any reading, the median income in this country has dropped 3.3%. Unemployment is still at 7%. The poverty rate is at 16%. And either 95 or 99% of the people are effectively making no increases, depending on whether you read the Nobel Prize winner at Yale or the Occupy movement. We have quite a financial situation in this country, and I realize it impacts the town. But what this budget does is going to impact more than myself up here. But I really am going to have to consider what I'm going to pay out of a 7% increase. So, thank you for listening.
Martin Malicki, please.
Martin Malicki, 79 Southwell Road. I'll be kind of short and sweet in terms of the Board of Ed. I think it should be fully funded, and I think actually they should get more than what they're asking for right now. More of my problem is with the town side in regards to the school buildings. My kids go to Emerson Williams, and every year for years now that I've been paying attention to the budget, the Board of Ed asks for perhaps as much as $2 million for capital improvements. and they get a fraction of that. Because of that, for years now, I've been paying attention to my kids' school. The roof is continually leaking, which I don't know if any of you have a roof leaking at home, if you would tolerate that. All the windows in that school, the thermal panes are gone. This winter, I suspect because of the thermal panes being gone, 3 windows cracked, and the school system had to dip into their budget to replace that glass during the winter. Besides all the the lack of insulation because the thermal panes are gone, a lot of those windows leak water from the rain. There are a number of walls in that school that when the winds are blowing just right, the walls leak and continually soak the carpeting. Obviously, the leaks are not a good thing to have, and they've been happening for years. The reason the roofs are leaking is because the roofs are all beyond their expected lifespan, and the town's not funding to replace them. All of these leaks, whether it be the windows, the walls, or the roofs, are potentially impacting the indoor air quality of the school. Because all these leaks are happening all over the place, some places continually, and I can't see what's happening above the ceiling tile, in the wall cavities, underneath the carpets. I can only guess. So I would like to see the town funding more of the capital improvement requests by the school system. This is Emerson Williams. A lot of these schools are older. I can only imagine what's happening in some of the other schools. So not only, like I said, I would like to see you fully fund the school budget, I would like to see you fund more appropriately the capital improvement budget towards the school buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Doreen Sears?
Thank you. Doreen C. Garcia, 36 Spring Street. I am the chair of the Weathersfield Public Library. And first off, would just like to thank Laurel for presenting her 27th budget, her 12th in Weathersfield, as she retires at the end of June this year. The library budget is 2% of the overall town budget, and the increase this year is proposed at 4%, which is about a total of $1.87 million. The key factor in this year's budget is the increased use on Sundays. Currently, the library is not open in September or in June on Sundays, and with this budget, we would like to do that. It's an increase actually only of about $4,800 to do that, but it would cover the school year by having the library open on Sundays from September to June. Budget would also allow us to maintain our current services, replace computers as they age. They're very well used by the public. We want to continue that usage and make sure those computers are available to the public, especially those who may not have computers and need to do things like have a job search. Also would maintain our current materials budget and increase that, which is not only just books anymore, but it's also online materials, online magazines, which have proven very popular as well. So I support the library budget for the upcoming fiscal year, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Martha Keneally.
Hi, Martha Keneally, 12 Fairmont Street. I'm going to speak first about the library and then about the schools. I'm happy to be a new member of the library board, and I appreciate the appointment. Thank you very much. And I just want to echo what Doreen has said about how wonderful it would be for us to be able to expand our hours and include Sundays in September and June. I think we all recognize that the library is really a central meeting place for our community. It is our per capita visits are the number of checkouts are well above the national average, and so it's really one of the most highly valued institutions in Weathersfield, and it's well supported. And I think we all kind of agree that it's something we want to see well funded. I think the thing that struck me, that amazed me about Sundays, was that there's only 4 hours we're open on Sundays, and every hour we're open, 129 books get checked out per hour. So we're checking out 2 books per minute at the library on Sundays, and that's a consistent usage. And that doesn't even count the Wi-Fi usage and the computer usage and the meeting rooms and the study rooms that people are using. And so it's just a very it's a great time to have it open, I think, especially in September when the schools first are open and the kids are gung-ho about getting their work done and, can get in there on Sundays. And then in June when projects are being wrapped up for the year, it's a great time for younger people. But I know our library is, of course, used by people of every age in this community and is well supported. So I hope we fully support the library budget. And then I just wanted to speak about the schools. And I guess I can only say that, I think we have good schools in this town, but it's like a deep, dark secret of the parents that we wish they were great schools, and we don't really even want to say it because we know that, people think, oh, that costs money. Well, I mean, some of these things do cost money, but I can't believe we're still talking about a math supervisor, somebody to run our math curriculum. Of course, we need department leaders for our, for the middle school and the high school. These are obvious things. And in this day and age, we do need a security director. It's unfortunate, but it's just a reality. And we need these things. I really wish, instead of talking about these things that we should just, I wish we had never gotten rid of, or we should just all understand, I wish I was up here talking about how we need languages, foreign languages in the elementary school. I want to talk about how we need to expand our instrumental music offerings in the elementary schools. I want to talk about expanding sports and back into the middle school and some of these things that are so important to meet the needs of our kids that can really propel us to excellence. I want to talk about getting Math Olympiad back. It's terrible that we don't have Math Olympiad. It's a shame. I'd love to see ropes come back. So yes, I support what is almost basic and obvious, that we need someone to run our math curriculum, that we need somebody to be a security director, and of course we need department leaders for our various departments. But I hope we can begin a conversation that will propel our school system forward to that excellence that I know we all, as parents, we want, but that we have come to recognize. And I think if there was a lesson from the referendum, it was that we recognize that the good reputation of our schools is important to the reputation of our community, it's important to the reputation, it's important to our property values, and that it is worth it for us. So I hope you fully support the school budget as well. Thank you.
George Root?
I can't believe that that's all that people want to say. I'm stunned. I wrote down at the very end. Caught me by surprise. Well, not completely. I gotta get a little organized, I'm sorry. But, George A. Rue, 956 Cloverdale Circle. You all know me pretty well, and my friends at the board know me pretty well also. Some of them I know better than I'd like to know, but that's all right too. I'm not going to be speaking and commenting on support this budget, support that budget. I think the things that I have said to this council and to the board innumerable times. The community looks to you as the leaders of the town, the managers of the town, those who have to make the business kinds of decisions that people in business often have to make. Good, bad, easy, hard, whatever. I don't think anyone here can tell you where to cut, or even to cut. Budgets are sort of spending guides. And when money's in short supply, the community has a right to look to our leadership, be it on the board or here. to be able to do what people in business have to do. And I'm sure Mr. Montanari is aware of the kinds of things they have to do. You gotta make do with less, but that doesn't give you the right to do less. You still have to do the things you have to do. And as a couple of people have said, living in town is getting to be quite costly. And for this citizen, you've never heard me plead poverty. Although I do watch my budget kind of carefully. And it is of concern. It's a concern of me, it's a concern for my kids, it's a concern for my little great-grandson. So I think what I would expect of our leadership is that we concentrate and look, as I've said to you before, look at the money, look at the important few and forget the trivial many. I don't know that you can support everything that you'd like to do. You've got to support those kinds of things, and you have to present challenges to those who run the school and those who run the place here. How can you do what you've got to do correctly and minimize waste, make sure everybody's putting in a full day's work, which I'm not too sure always happens, and to make sure that the things that you like to do are things that have to be done. There's a big difference between likes and wants. So, you know, I went through the budget, and I've been pretty busy lately, and I saw Jeff today, and I said, geez, I wasn't even too sure the budget hearing was tonight, and that's a first, because I'm usually pretty well prepared, and I'm doing a lot of this right off the cuff after very little research. But a couple of things did jump out at me. The first thing I looked up the bylaws to make sure everybody get their 10 minutes, because I sure wouldn't want to get into an argument with somebody here about your time is up, Mr. Rubio. Sit down. The town manager's budget, yeah, the numbers are there, the facts are there. A question that keeps coming to my mind is we often talk about the average value of a house in Wethersfield. And I think that's a misleading number. I think you should be talking about the mean. I read an article not too long ago recently that if the guy that owns Walmart moved into Wethersfield, all of a sudden his income would have the effect of raising the average wage in Wethersfield about, I don't know, a big number. And you do the same with housing when you use averages. You really should be looking at the mean. I had a hard time understanding how you get to 1/3 is not going to pay any taxes, but I'll say, oh, we'll worry about that another day. So anyway, I think as you start to sell this to the community, talk in terms of the mean. Talk in terms of the largest number of people that are going to be affected by what you do. Not those of us that live in the south end of town, and maybe you can get by. But a lot of the people up in the other end of town who can't, who are going to be really hurting, all right? Internal considerations in the manager's comment, a couple of things caught my eye. The premium for liability insurance. I've got some pictures in my camera that I want to send you about a piece of property immediately adjacent to me. You talk about a liability exposure. You've all heard about the kid who got killed or the person who got killed in one of the state parks for a tree coming down. Well, we had a major tree come down right next door to me on private property. As a result, I've spent well over $2,000 to get some trees taken down on my property because they're of concern. But our town, and I've been speaking about that blighted site for years and years and years and years, and it's like it goes in one ear and comes out the other. You've got some real hazards down there. Make sure you get down and look at them and take care of that project. Get that damn project done. It's $80,000 out of a $90 million budget, and that's like pocket change. And I think it's an insult to the community and the neighbors of mine that thing's not been repaired. All right, on the various, the several other personnel changes due to retirements and service and delivery managers, you got about 6 little items down there. The only question that comes to my mind as I looked over, and I made a couple of comments on some of them, does the total number go up or does the total number go down? If the number goes up, think about it some more. If the number goes down, you're moving in the right direction, in total. My guess is it's not going to go down. So I'm just suggesting, take a look at it. Let me see if I can find my next paper clip here and stop losing my stuff. I can do the next part here from memory. One of the things that caught my eye, and I had to chuckle about it, we talked about the process. It talked about the process and showed an organizational chart, and at the very top, it showed the voters. And I thought to myself, our town's being represented by what, less than 50 people? There's a hell of a lot of other people out there. You people have to be aware of, or out there may be concerned. But the voters really don't have a lot to say. We can't have a referendum, and the community ought to know that a referendum on the budget is probably not going to be coming forth easily. But that's something you guys want to think about in another area. The other item that I have is capital equipment, or the capital improvement budget. And I noticed Cloverdale Pond, $80,000, and I've commented on it. You know what my thoughts on it are. I think you've been remiss in not making this thing getting it fixed. The previous mayor from mayors back said, oh, George, things are going along, you're gonna get the money. And it ain't even my property, it's your property. It's not mine, you know, so you ought to take care of your property. As one of the gentlemen said, you don't take care of the roofs, you don't take care of this, that, and the next thing. I can testify, you don't take care of your pond or your open space next to me. A question that I did have, there's another item, and it's $150,000, and it's several years out, and it talks about culverts replaced on Fox Hill, and the first thought went through my mind was, I don't know which one. Is it the one that comes out of Cloverdale Pond, or is it the one that's down by the golf course? You don't have to answer the question, because you know. But if it's the one down by the golf course, I'm saying, interesting. But the one down in the poorer part of town, not by a lot, but a little bit, is not getting fixed. But if that's the one you're gonna fix, that's fine. So, other than that, a lot of it was off the cuff. I think what I really want to make sure, or try to encourage you, to think of those people in town who are not here, who are intimidated by being here. They're afraid you might yell at them. And it's been done in town, you know, I mean, that's not a new occurrence. So think about those people who really may be hurting. And just make sure that in the final analysis, that you have looked at the big dollars. And don't start bragging about how you saved $50,000 out of a $90 million budget somewhere. And I'm talking to all of you. And I'm talking to all of the people of the board, as you may have to face the challenges of doing more with less. Just as the gentleman said, his long-term care went up 15%. Mine went up 15% 2 years ago. And, you know, they kind of put a kink in my budget. But good planning permits you to do more with less. And I think the town has a right to expect our elected officials to do the same. With that, I thank you.
Thank you. That was the list of folks that had signed up. Is anybody interested in speaking with respect to public comment who did not? Mia?
Mia Caulfield, 120 Main. I don't have anything prepared, but I would like to just agree a lot with what Nicole had to say. I think that over the past few years, since my son's been in school, I can't believe all the things that we've, you know, not put through or have fallen through the cracks. I have friends in other towns that have gifted programs, chess clubs, all kinds of stuff going on, and it seems like every year we lose stuff. And we never gain anything back. So I duly support the education budget, and I wish we could even get more. Thanks.
Mr. Young?
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I reviewed this budget as well. And granted, right off the bat, we all know that our grand list has decreased by 5% this year. I don't know what it decreased the earlier years, but we have come through a very bad recession. And I've seen very little tightening of the belt here at the town of Wethersfield and our Board of Education. As we we see the elimination or the decrease of those grand lists. That's affecting everybody in town by the valuation of their property, and we've all lost a lot of money. And who do we blame but our chairman of the boards, which are you folks? You spend too much money, you borrow too much money, and you give a lot of money away as well to friends and buddies. We have a number of people that have left this year here in the town of Weathersfield. Some people like Nancy Stillwell and Ray Ann Palmer, and of course, it's fine to lose some people, and we should be taking an opportunity at not replacing those people. We should be looking at doing the best we can with what we have. We've gone through some very difficult times, and it's not over yet. Just because we hear that a few little things are propping up, we're stuck in a state that has no growth. The growth has been zero. Talk to almost anybody, and you'll find out that any increases of employment were not done because of growth in the businesses. It's because people retired and they had to replace a job here and had to replace a job over there. And there is no growth. And with that, our values of our homes have dropped. We've seen foreclosures left and right. This past week, I saw 4 or 5 homes that had $1 next to them. I mean, this is sad for those people who lost their money, but it's also for the neighbors in those neighborhoods where those homes are selling or being foreclosed on. That's pushing everything down. And we have our share of that. And our whole operation of our town should be going down. And it should have been going down since 2008 when this recession started, but it didn't. As I said, we're losing some people on the town side, or we lost them already. And of course, here we are. We're going to ramp up and hire a few more and keep things zipping along. But I talk about growth. The growth of our town hasn't been growing. Our population has grown by so tiny little, it doesn't warrant any extra people to do the job, extra money to do the job. It should all be reduced. And then, of course, we have other costs that Weathersfield tends to take on left and right. We're buying fire engines, we're buying dump trucks, we're buying everything under the sun using credit. And that credit balloon is going to blow up one fine day. And it's going to be just as bad as the real estate recession. And as that happens, we the citizens will be taking another hit. And the valuations of our properties are just dwindling away. And then, of course, I look at some issues here that, the Board of Education, same idea. They're losing some people per the presentation by the superintendent, and right away he's going to be hiring more people. So whatever savings he's going to have, he's going to pile it on with new employees, which means budgets keep going up and up. And what's our increase now? 4-point-some% that we're looking at tonight on this combined budget. We just had a great opportunity, and I say a great opportunity. Over the last year, we lost a finance director on the town side. We lost the finance director or top chief guy over at the Board of Ed. We should have came up with just one person to fill that position. Computer systems can handle all of that. But obviously in Weathersfield, we just don't have the people that understand how it works. And we end up hiring more people. And as we hire more people, our tax bills keep going up and the valuation of our properties go down. Someone mentioned tonight about the school systems. Oh, they're great for the property values. They probably are. But what's happened to our school system? You've been funding the school system for 13 years, for many years, but over the last 13 years, when some of you folks were on the Board of Education, we have seen no improvement in our CMTs and CMT tests. As a matter of fact, now they're just withdrawing those kinds of tests because the students can't improve. We're coming out with some new smart way of doing it. And if you think your students are going to be doing better, I hope that they do. But if they don't, I think you'll be hearing from me some more. Because you keep plowing money into something that doesn't work. I mean, I heard one of the members of the Board of Education say, well, we keep trying. Well, if it doesn't work. What businessman would do that, Mr. Mayor? He'd be out of business. But here in the town of Weathersfield, failure is fine. It's just another year of the tax increases. And that's how it works here. Just recently, we heard some conversation here from the town council regarding the Standish House leases, or the cost of taking care of the Standish House, the renovations of the outside of it, where it's going to cost us $500,000. And talk about a real fiasco, Mayor. When you read the lease, I don't know who in the world would put such a thing together. But it certainly, I now understand why everything keeps going up. We don't have people capable of really negotiating leases. Failures, as far as I'm concerned, and when I read them, I could not believe the money, the so little money we're collecting from the Historic Society for the Standish House that's supposed to be a restaurant, how much money they're collecting, or should be collecting, on rents, and how much our responsibility is to the particular property. We pay well, first of all, it's in aggregate, 4 properties, anything over $3,000, the town of Weathersfield picks it up. Is that a good deal, Tony? You were working for the town for many years. Maybe that's how they've been doing it, but that's not the way you really do business. You know they're going to get $41,000 a year. We want rent that's going to be comparable, not $100. And then if they don't rent the place, we're going to pay for 6 months, we're going to pay them $19,200. Who the heck are they? I know who they are. They came in with the strong position. The town of Weathersfield, weak. And that's how it is. You're weak. Now when I hear you going into negotiations for anything, I'm going to remind you of these weaknesses that you have. Can you ever improve? Nah. I don't think you have the backbone to improve. The only backbone you have is to increase taxes on everybody. And you're putting out a so-so product. Getting on to those leases. We need to do something about that, Mayor, and you got a letter from me last night regarding that. We need to divest, and you know, you're going to find, and my statement going further is going to be really off the wall, because I am going to agree that Mr. Manuso is right. We have to do something with that building. And we need to divest ourselves from that building. That building is going to be an albatross around our necks for the next, 47 years, because it's a 50-year lease. A lease that wasn't even vetted to the public. Go back and look at the minutes. It was quiet, very little was said. Nobody even knew what was happening. And now we're stuck with that. But I would encourage the town to look at making that null and void and taking that property back over, because we're liable for all the expenses anyway, except $3,000. $3,000 is not much when anybody, I mean, I don't know how you could put a deal together like that and think that it's a good deal for the community. We have other community property as well. The Kinney Center, another $100 we collect on rent, and we pay for all the expenses over $3,000 in the aggregate among 4 properties. That's a smart, that's a deal that I can't believe it was even made, Mayor. I can't even believe it. And that's going to be costing us for 40-some more years if things continue. And we mow their lawns. We're going to do all their maintenance. We're going to pay for their electric. We're going to pay for their natural gas or oil or whatever in the world they need. And we don't care up here. But as a citizen, Mayor, pitiful. Very pitiful. And this is going to go on for years unless you put an end to it. Now, my suggestion, Mayor,
Mr. Young,
is...
can I ask you to wrap up? So
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. Yes, sir. My suggestion is...
You're welcome to come back, of course.
Yeah, I know. My suggestion is we should return those properties to those owners. Let them have the headache. And if they don't want it, then we should figure out what the fair market value is of those properties. And we should liquidate them. Give the Historic Society who wants those buildings so badly, give them the first shot at fair market value, not a deal. And then, of course, if they don't want it and they can't pony up and they don't want to be whole property owners in town like the rest of us are, but they want the benefit, the cheap benefits, then we should sell it to an investor or private people. Thank you very much. I'll be back.
Thank you. Mr. Counsel.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, general public, John Console, 38 Ivy Lane. Just a few observations and a few comments. To start with, as far as the Town Council goes, it's all about a fiduciary responsibility when it's budget time. And it's all about all the residents in town, not just the people that have children in the Board of Education, in the school system, but it's also about the retirees, new people moving into town, and especially our commercial properties. We talked tonight about budgets of 3.7%, 4.3%, comes in at 3.9%, and this goes back and forth, and it's a yearly thing that happens. There's some givens. The givens are the grand list in town is down. Hence, the mill rate has to go up to balance that off, so we have the same starting figure that we had with last year. As far as commercial properties go, 83%, we talk about 17% decrease, but 83% will be an increase. And the commercial properties, we need more economic growth in commercial properties in this town. We need that to carry the burden of the residents that are paying pretty high taxes on their properties. This is something that really has to be looked at. And the more taxes do go up, and especially percentages on the commercial properties, we start losing commercial properties, like the state of Connecticut is losing some commercial industry, a lot of commercial industries. We're in some pretty serious problems with this town. The bonding is another effect with the Weathersfield High School, and the taxes that will have to be going up over the years to pay for the bonding, and the projections that will have to be made in years to come. As far as the Board of Education, after 6, almost 8 years of turmoil, we finally have, I think, on the administrative side, from what I've read and seen and spoken to people, we have a pretty sharp crew between the head of the Board of Education and the finance person for the Board of Education. And they're going to need some time, and I know, it's not a daily thing, but it takes time to correct what's happened over the past 8 years, especially with all the turmoil that's going on and the types of problems that we've had with the board. So I'm pretty confident that they'll have to also look at these givens and make some pretty tough decisions. Using the economic recovery figures for the country from 2008 to today, the percent tax increase in this town has far surpassed the percent increase of growth in the country. Something else that really should be looked at with the town council in this budget session. We need to project out the Weathersfield High School renovation project with the overruns, what the increases are going to be on the tax burden and the tax levies for the people in town. No one's spoken about, once the Weathersfield High School is done, what do we do about Hamner School? And that's going to be another burden that the taxpayers will have to either deal with or maybe mothball the building. And I know that these are discussions that, again, the people, the administrative staff on the Board of Education and councils in the future will have to discuss to get a good balance. We'll have to balance out contracts. Insurance will continually go up. And we'll need to get a good snapshot of what the town's going to look like 5 years from now. The finance area, between the financial area in the town of Weathersfield and the finance department for the Board of Education, should really sit down, because I think this department has the most crucial role in forecasting the state of the economy of the entire town and what will be needed to operate this town and for the Board of Education versus the residents, taxpayers, and what they could continue to carry as far as paying for taxes. You know, one question I know a lot of people have asked, and I know a little bit, many retired people call me up and say, and I know I'll probably get boos and hisses from some of the people in this audience, but maybe for a few years a drastic user fee increase might be needed for parents that have children in the school system in order to get some of these programs started and going. And I know a lot of them carry the burden. There's been a lot of retired people that have carried the burden for many years, but a lot of them can't really do it anymore. And again, think about the commercial areas in this town and the commercial businesses that you burden them to the point where they move someplace else, then we have some serious issues. I would urge everyone to once again reread these two articles in the Hartford Courant, one back on February 11th, 2014, about the town grand list dropping 5.6%, and also on Wednesday, April 9th, 2014, about the 3.5 million budget hike sought. Just some observations and points. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
Thank you,
Good
John.
evening.
Yes, in the dark here, yes, sorry. I know I missed you before, I'm sorry.
My name is Carolyn Fazina. I live at 19 Fairmont Street. I have two children at Charles Wright Elementary School. First, I'd like to say that I feel the fact that as parents, we have to come up and plead our case for our schools, roof that is leaking, rain coming in the walls. This is the first time I've ever heard of this. Windows that are broken. All that seems completely ludicrous that we have to, as parents, come and tell you about this and how we have to plead here for that to be corrected. Like Martin said, none of us would tolerate any of this happening in our own home. Yes, yet we're tolerating it happening in our children's schools, where they're expected to be able to concentrate and learn. And I wonder if that can happen in that sort of an environment. As a former PTO president and a very active parent at Charles Wright Elementary School, I work very hard within the school to coordinate events and fundraisers. These events and fundraisers enable the school to provide buses for field trips, enrichment for our students, and capital purchases that haven't been able to be covered in our town budget. I have done and will continue to do what I can at my level, and I trust the superintendent's office and the board to create a budget that accurately represents the needs of all our schools, and more importantly, the needs of all our students within those schools. I believe they have done so with this budget, and I fully support the education budget this year. Thank you very much.
Tana Ford, 115 Church Street.
I apologize for the outfit. I was supporting all the runners at the marathon today and never got to get changed. But I am here to talk also about supporting the education budget. I'm also here as a parent of people, of kids who participate in sports in this town, and the fields are atrocious. I'm sure anyone who has kids in any sport activity has been to other towns, have seen the amazing fields that towns that have the same average income, and their fields are 10 times better than ours are. I mean, that definitely has to be looked at. And I'm in support of school renovation, and I'm here just to bring up again the Hammer School renovation that needs to be addressed.
Hi, Kristen Healy, 96 Yale Street. I'm here to ask you to support the Board of Education's budget. I came to the board this past year. I have 2 girls that go to Emerson Williams, and we had 1 teacher cut for the 3rd grade. We had classroom sizes of 26 and 25 with students of all learning ages, abilities. And with this whole new core curriculum, it's not fair for a teacher to have such large size classes. The Board of Ed had no money to give us another teacher. You know, they came forward and they did what they could to give us some paras, but kids can't effectively learn with large size classes. You look at other towns, Glastonbury, West Hartford, Avon. I have friends that live in those towns, and what's being offered in their towns is absolutely amazing compared to our towns. I grew up in Wethersfield. I had a great education. Not so much for my kids. I think we have a good school, but I think we could make our school system great. So I'm here to ask you to fully support the Board of Ed's budget. Thank you.
Yes, I'll bet.
How you doing? Pete Baranowski, 65 Westway, Wethersfield. I'd just like to say I've lived in town all my life, and I've lived all over the town. So I started on the south end at Charter Road. I've enjoyed Jordan Lane, Woken Hill Road, I'm on Westway. Actually spent some time in the projects. And the town's always been good, and I've always appreciated the school systems here, and I think you folks have done a great job with the school systems and supporting the school systems, and I hope you continue to do that. Because I spoke to a lot of people when we were trying to get the school approved, the high school approved, and they were from all over town, and everybody supported the school. Thank you.
Gus, raising your hand there? Couldn't tell.
Good evening, Gus Colantonio, 60 Morrison Avenue. I've been in town for 41 years. The school system, I cannot complain. It's been good. I wouldn't even question the Board of Education budget, but I still have a problem that when 82% of the budget goes to salaries and benefits. I've been out of work since 2008. I get Social Security. Last year I got 1.5% increase. If it keeps on going like this, where the mill rate in town, since I've been here that I can remember, the only time it went down, the mill rate, and not necessarily the tax at the amount, is in 1990s when we had the reevaluation and the prices of the houses went up. The mill rate went down, but the tax was still up. When I moved in Wethersfield, I used to pay $127 mortgage. Now I pay close to $600 in taxes alone. Where is it going to go? I just cannot believe it, because when I really look at the town and I look at business, if private industries, private businesses were run the way towns are run, I think every business out there would be out of work, would be bankrupt. Thank you.
Mike?
Good evening. My name is Mike Zaleski. I live at 23 Black Birch Road. First, thank you all for participating in this budget process. I know it is a long and arduous process. I do appreciate the fact that it's my understanding that many of the council members have participated over the last couple of months in the Board of Education process. That's a positive sign moving forward, and hopefully will help your work as you move forward in the next couple of weeks. My simple point would be that I would ask the town council and the Board of Education to continue to invest in the town, invest in the school budget, invest in the infrastructure of the towns. I would agree some of the town fields are in rough shape at the moment and need to continue to be invested in it, and hopefully we, at someday after several years of investment, we can start to look like some of the fields that we see in Glastonbury and Farmington and West Hartford. Invest in capital projects. I understand that purchasing equipment year after year looks like it's an expensive proposition. I would state that the not investing in that equipment and not replacing those vehicles is going to ultimately cost you more in the long run. And then ultimately, investing in the school buildings and the other town buildings, maintenance delayed is ultimately going to cost you more in the future. So make those investments now. Let's stay competitive with other towns as we move forward. Thank you.
We want to make sure everybody's had an opportunity to speak the first time. Hi, go ahead.
Kim Bobbin, 83 Longview Drive. I'll be brief because I know everyone in this room is tired. I wanted to speak on behalf of all the parents that are home doing math homework tonight, that we support the Board of Education budget as is. And for all the parents who are home right now reading to their children in bed, it's 8:15, I'm sure that's where they all are, that we fully support the library budget. And thank you all for your time. I know this is a long process for you. Thanks.
Yes.
Barbara Saladin, 6 Lantern Lane. I want to say that I support the Board of Ed budget. I also would like to see capital improvement money go toward the school. I have a student at Highcrest, and while at the school, I saw ceiling tile fall right where the students often are, so I know there's improvements needed from leaky roofs and such. And the other thing is to make sure there's enough money in the budget for paving. I know the parking lot at Highcrest is disastrous, and fixing potholes is probably not enough at this point, so just to make sure there's money in the budget for that. Thank you.
Anybody that hasn't had a chance to speak in our first session? No one else? Okay, anybody that has spoken and wishes to speak again? Wish to speak again? Mr. Young? No. You're nodding yes or no?
Good evening again, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I've been up to this podium many times asking to reduce taxes. Like people come up here and say they're pleading to increase taxes. But it seems like those who want to increase taxes always end up winning. And everybody else who would like to see taxes going down just will never see it in this town. We have town leaders that know that we have quite a disparity in our population, our demographics. We have a large retired senior population in the 30% range, 33% range. And they're just about totally ignored by the prior councils. And we'll see how this council handles them as well. We're looking at big increases coming up with that Weathersfield High School renovation. And as someone had mentioned, the Hamner School is on the back burner. Don't we have a infrastructure committee for the high school and for Hamner School, if I recall correctly? We continue to see our MDC charges for water, sewer, whatever it is, continue to go up. And, even when I look through the budget book, I see indications of, 2% increase for our unionized workers here, and so much increases over there. And it's as though those issues, those increases came from above. Human beings made those increases. Human beings that are sitting in your seats prior, and you're going to do the same thing. The way the budget is written, the book is written as though nobody has been involved in this except for these are the facts. This went up, that went up. The MDC is going to go up by so much. But you folks, those who sat here last year, the year before, went on the street supporting that MDC increase. And now we're all seeing what that increase is. But in here, it should have your names, so we know who they were. I know most of the names. And, look at this thing you call Other Post-Employment Benefit Fund. Here we live, right next door to the insurance capital of the world, back whenever. And they didn't even set the budget, the pension up until last year to put money away on a regular basis, to fund those retirees someday. So what are we doing this year and going forward? We're putting more globs of money away. We're taxing the people for that mistake that the people who sat up here made over the last X amount of years. And I think there's so many areas in this town that we're paying for errors. As I said earlier, we tried this and it didn't work. It was one of the responses from one of the BOE people. So it didn't work. So it cost us X amount of dollars and we lost so many years of where we could have had progress. But this is how Weathersfield is. There's a lot of expenditures in here, but I'd like to gear myself a little closer to the Board of Education, which I do talk about on occasions. And we did have a talk about this at the last town council meeting regarding their expenditure report and how they front load the salaries, the benefit areas, and then later on push money where there's a lot of extra money, reallocate it later down into the lower accounts that are already over budget. But they spend it all because that's how it's done. You need, and I've mentioned this to you, Mayor, and the council, you need to do it in a responsible way. A responsible way is to look to save money, not spend it all. And that's what we've been doing. Our Board of Ed has been spending it year after year and budgeting it wrong. Yet nobody will take the stand and go after them and make them do the right thing. Instead, it's easier to just raise taxes. And if the people don't like it, too bad. What we need to do is find ways of saving money. And I've talked to you also on another issue. We should be looking at mothballing one of our schools. We're looking at these charter schools, these ag academies or whatever, these exotic type schools that the state is putting in. And why are they putting them in? It's because the local boards of education just can't cut the mustard. Their students just aren't doing it. So the state thinks they can do it. Well, that's like the kettle calling the pot black, because I don't think they can do it either, but they're spending money that they don't even have. And of course, you pick up the same ideas, Mayor. Spend money you don't even have. Let's go borrow it. Let's go give some money away to some group at the expense of the citizens. We just raise our taxes. You know, it wasn't long ago, back in the summer, I was having lunch down in the old Weathersfield, and I hear this racket. Guys with lawnmowers. They were town of Weathersfield lawnmowers. They were going up and down the snow shelf. And I'm sitting there, I had to go inside because there was so much noise. But the fact is, why were we even mowing those lawns? Those are snow shelves that belonged, the owners of those properties should be taking care of those. We were spending money because we're good guys. And the whole town is paying for it. But up on my street, I have to do the snow shelf. I can't ask Jeff to send a guy over to mow the lawn on the snow shelf, but you do it down in old Weathersfield. And you give money away down there like drunken sailors. And it's just tax money. So, Mayor, I wish you the best of luck in saving some money for the taxpayers. You remember, there's 30-some% of senior citizens in this town that use very little services. I would encourage you to come up with some type of pay-to-play for more of the school. These people want to have increases in their taxes, increases in our taxes. Why don't we give them a separate bill? They're willing to pay. They're willing participants. Why should those like George Rue, who has no children, or myself has no children in the school system, why should we continue to pay? Why should we, it should be divvied out. Those who use it, charge them. Instead, you hit everybody because it's so easy. And here the town is not doing well. And the only reason you can say it's doing well, go back and look at all those grants that you get. All those mandates you got to now live with. All that money that has been borrowed, whether it's coming from the state of Connecticut, borrowed money, or the federal government, borrowed money. And that's the only reason we're doing what some people would say, well. If we didn't have borrowed money, you wouldn't have turf on your field. And you wouldn't have gotten to that point. You wouldn't have had lights if it wasn't for borrowed money. The people that said they were going to pay for it, they only put up a very small portion and then walked away. Because, let everybody else pay. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Rue?
George A. Rue, 956 Cloverdale Circle. I've only got one item, and from a dollar perspective, it's minutia. And like I've often said, concentrate on the big stuff, forget the minutia. But here's the minutia I do want to run. It caught my attention. And it was addressed both in the manager's budget and in Mike's budget. Camera surveillance. I read camera surveillance, and my antenna went up like that. And I said, what are we doing now? They're going to put cameras like they're putting in a lot of cities all over town and see what everybody's doing? I didn't go beyond that. Maybe there's a big, long explanation further on that we're only going to do this, that, or the next thing. But it caught my attention. So in terms of camera surveillance, whatever that means, I would urge you make very sure that you know what it is you're doing. That you don't, our government these days has, and our police in general throughout the country have a great propensity to infringe on our rights and the freedoms that we take very seriously here in this country, okay? So a word of caution. I picked up on Mike's comments about, we got to make our schools safe. Everything is, and boy, that gets all the mothers and fathers up nervous. Understandably to a degree. And we do want safe schools. But again, I urge, think your way through. Do we want cops in every school? Maybe Mike does. I'm nervous about it. Mr. Young is right. I don't have a kid in the school, a child in the school now. But I got one little guy, boy, I'm sure nurturing him along because I want him to be in the schools here someday in a couple more years. And I worry about that little guy. I'll probably be I'll be living down in Old Weathersfield at that time, but that's another problem. But in any event, yes, there's been stabbings. But as I've read, and I've got a couple of articles, and they're on my desk currently, and I really should mail them off to the interested parties, about zero tolerance. And I think I raised the question at one of the board meetings one time. Do we have this policy of zero tolerance? And I believe the answer was yes, we do, but I'm not exactly certain of that. But then again, I read in the paper where there are people around the country are having second thoughts in the school systems about the wisdom of that. They got little children in 3rd and 4th and 5th grade. They come in with a toy water pistol or something. They end up getting locked up and handcuffed and being tased and being shot, and young teenagers being killed by the police in the schools that are supposed to be making the schools safe. So when you start to think about putting law enforcement people into the schools, think very, very carefully about should they have tasers? Should they have guns? Should they be arbitrators and try to just calm the waters? And if that's what they have to do, if that's what they've got to do, I don't understand myself why our highly paid and sophisticated school people can't be doing this kind of calming of the waters when these little fist fights break out in the kindergarten playground and 2 little kids are ending up in front of some judge. Be very, very cautious as you decide whether or not you want to fund that kind of safety for the children of this community. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak this evening? Seeing none, I want to thank members of the public for coming out and giving their time and contributions with respect to our budget as we go into the final couple of weeks of our work. I also want to thank the board and the administration for attending this evening, as well as our town managers for his presentation, for council's attention. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.